The distress beacon had been screaming into the void for 3 standard cycles before anyone dared answer it. Celera knew this because she had listened to the log herself. Hunched over the cracked console of the outpost relay station on Threna's edge, her 4 eyes flicking across the garbled waveform. Every Ashen compact vessel within a dozen systems had received the signal. Every one of them had logged it, flagged it, and quietly sailed on. Because the beacon was coming from Kerthos Station, and Kerthos Station had a monster loose in it. "You cannot be serious," Celera said, for the 4th time, watching the human named Kalen strap a battered toolkit across his back like he was heading out for a picnic instead of a suicide run. "The report says it tore through 6 meters of reinforced bulkhead. It killed an entire containment team. Command listed it as Class Ultra Hazard and told everyone to evacuate the sector." "Yep," Kalen said cheerfully, checking the charge on a stun baton that looked comically small in his hand. "Read the report." Real page-turner. "Then why are we going toward it?" "Because the report also says it's been alone in a broken station with no life support for 6 months. It hasn't actually killed anyone since the initial breach, and it keeps circling back to the observation deck instead of the escape pods." Kalen shrugged into a jacket that had seen better decades. "That's not monster behavior, Celera. That's scared and stuck behavior." Celera's crest flattened against her skull, the Thran equivalent of a deep frown. "It killed a containment team. A containment team that shot it first. I read the incident logs too, you know. Twice." She didn't have an answer for that. She rarely did, with him. It was, she privately suspected, the most infuriating thing about humans. They read the same reports everyone else did and somehow arrived at a completely different conclusion. And then they were usually, maddeningly, right. Kerthos Station drifted at the edge of the debris field like a corpse that hadn't been told it was dead yet. Half its hull plating had peeled away in the initial disaster, whatever that disaster had actually been. The official cause was still unknown, which around the compact usually meant classified, or nobody wanted to write down what really happened. Kalen's boots echoed in the frost-rimed corridors. Celera kept close behind him, her sidearm drawn, her 4 eyes doing what 4 eyes did best, watching every direction at once. "You know," she whispered, "most sane species send a drone first." "Drones don't have hands to offer," Kalen whispered back. "That is not reassuring." They found the first sign of it 2 decks down, claw marks raked into a support strut, deep enough to have snapped the metal clean through. Celera's translator hitched on the sound she made, something between a gasp and a curse. Kalen just crouched and studied the marks with the mild, assessing look he got when fixing engines. "Defensive," he said. "See how they're all facing the same direction? Something was cornered here. Not hunting. Cornered. How do you know that?" "I grew up around dogs that got kicked a lot before we got them. You learn the difference between an animal that wants to hurt you and one that's just terrified you're going to hurt it first." Celera had no reference point for dogs. She filed the word away to look up later, assuming there was a later. They found the creature on the observation deck, exactly where Kalen had guessed it would be, pressed into the corner where the shattered viewport still showed a sliver of starfield, as if it had spent 6 months finding comfort in the one window that wasn't boarded over. It was enormous. Easily 3 meters at the shoulder, a mass of matted gray-black fur over what looked like armored hide, 6 limbs ending in claws that had torn a bulkhead like paper, and a low, guttural rumble building in its chest the second the door hissed open. Celera's weapon came up instantly. "Kalen, don't." His voice was quiet, flat, absolutely certain. "Lower it. Slowly. If you point that thing at it, we're both dead in about 4 seconds, and honestly we deserve it. It is a Class Ultra Hazard. It's a scared animal in a broken box that hasn't eaten anything but ration paste it found in a vending unit for half a year." Kalen was already crouching down, making himself smaller, setting his stun baton on the deck, plating with a deliberate, visible motion. "Watch the tail. If it were about to charge, the tail would be up. It's tucked. That's not an attack posture. You don't know that species. I don't need to know the species. Fear looks like fear. It's pretty universal, once you've seen enough of it." The creature's rumble deepened as Kalen crept closer, one slow step at a time, hands open, palms up, empty. Celera's every instinct screamed at her to drag him back by his collar. She did not move. She had learned, in 8 months of increasingly unlikely survival, that when Kalen got that particular look on his face, arguing cost more time than it saved. "Hey," Kalen said softly, to a creature that had killed 6 trained soldiers. "Hey, big guy. I know. I know it's been bad. Nobody's here to hurt you." The creature's 6 eyes, Celera counted them, distantly, through the roar of her own pulse, fixed on him. Its lips peeled back from teeth the length of her forearm. Kalen did not flinch. He held out one hand, palm still open, and waited. For 11 seconds, nothing happened. Celera counted every one of them. Then the creature's massive head dipped, just slightly, and it made a sound that wasn't a growl at all. Something lower, uncertain, almost a whine, entirely too small for something its size. "Yeah," Kalen murmured. "Yeah, I know." It let him touch its shoulder. Celera did not remember lowering her weapon. She only remembered, some unknowable time later, standing frozen in the doorway while a 3-meter apex predator that had been logged as an extinction-level threat leaned its entire weight into a human's open palm like something starved for exactly that. "You're not calling it fluffy," Celera said, 3 days later, standing in the cargo hold of Kalen's ship and watching the creature, Fluffy, demolish an entire crate of protein rations with the delicacy of an industrial shredder. "I already did. It's on the manifest." You put an ultra-hazard designation on an official compact shipping manifest as Fluffy, Domestic Companion, 1-1. Technically accurate. They are going to open a full inquiry. "Let them." Kalen scratched behind what might have been an ear, and the low rumble that answered him was, unmistakably, no longer the sound of something cornered. "I'd like to see the inquiry board explain the incident report better than I can." 6 armed soldiers walked in, shooting at a starving, terrified animal defending the only window it had left. Of course it fought back. Anyone would. Celera watched the creature, Fluffy, and she hated that the name was already lodging itself in her vocabulary, flop its enormous bulk down across the cargo deck with a boom that rattled the bulkheads, and promptly go still, sides rising and falling in the slow rhythm of actual, undisturbed sleep. Not the wary half-rest of something that expected an attack. Sleep. "It trusts you," she said quietly. "After everything. It trusts you. Trust's not that complicated once you strip away the noise." Kalen sat down against Fluffy's flank, unbothered, like he was leaning on furniture. Most things just want to know somebody's not going to hurt them for existing. Doesn't matter how many teeth they've got. Celera looked at him for a long moment. This small, soft, absurdly fragile creature who had walked unarmed toward a class ultra-hazard because the paperwork hadn't matched what his eyes told him. And she thought, not for the first time, that the rest of the galaxy had cataloged humans entirely wrong. They weren't the monsters everyone whispered about in border sector bars. They were the ones monsters learned, eventually, to fall asleep next to. "Command is still going to ask what happened to their ultra-hazard threat," she said finally. Kalen grinned, scratching Fluffy's flank as it rumbled contentedly in its sleep. "Tell them it got adopted."